Okay, in this video, I'd like to go into all the tech that I believe I've discovered that was spoke about in the letter to Ashton Forbes in regards to the whole MH370 investigation. I've had help on this one from beyond. Two people I'd like to thank, Tom Bearden and Pete Peterson. They've helped me really put together all these clues and tie everything together that wasn't really fitting. And this made a whole lot of sense once I looked back at some stuff that I already had done and some stuff that I already had watched. I'd also like to thank Carrie Cassidy, because without her interviewing these people, I would have never found all this stuff. So let's get into this whole thing. Here we go. So I was asking Tom Bearden if he could give us any clues into fitting everything together, and if we were missing something, what could he tell me that we was missing? So this is what he led me to. MH370 and the Z, where it's megahertz here. The Z stands for pump Z carrier wave. And that's exactly how my magnetic propulsion system is working through the 0 point. It's pulsing the system and building it up and locking in at certain spots. So this whole thing is operating just like that. So what I did with this whole thing is I followed the clues from the letter to Ashton Forbes, where it says they had the program before, but now it's machine intuition. So what you have found is not the technology itself, but a derivative of the technology. So this is where I really started thinking that it needs some super complex computer and then a super fast clock to run it. So it says a deeper layer you could focus on the products or the application. So that's what I believe I found. So it says the tech is based on structures, simple and beautiful structures, that lets us use the unlimited power that is everywhere. And they keep focusing on this word power. And if you go back, you'll see that in my Quanta Services video, that's their stock ticker is power. And that's where MJ Electric connects into this whole thing through Rogers City and what they're doing with the whole grid system here with the high voltage transmission power lines. So they're talking about a meta structure that creates low complexity and relative low energy phase transmission. The structures are inherently stable and self-regulating. So a power generator that can run forever combines structures to make a meta product faster than light, infinite in its power. So once again, they say the word power. So you're gonna see this over and over again. So what I did is I ran a search on Yahoo. I typed in 370 MH and then I added the Z, just like the megahertz. Like I said, the Z stands for pump Z carrier wave. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. It's how this whole thing is operating through the 0 point. So this is what pops up with this whole deal, is that you get 370 megahertz to a 4 gig radiation measurement system on one of the searches. And it's called MEGI-Q. So this whole thing, it looks like this. So you do this search here, 370 megahertz. And okay, this one's showing the 6 gig radiation system here. You're gonna find all these things that are using the tag 370. So the MH370, these people are just blasting this stuff right in your face. And they're just tagging everything with it. And that's how I'm finding all this stuff. So this is the other deal with this whole thing. It's going back to what they were doing in the Philadelphia experiment, where they're using rotating magnetic fields, and they're using RF, radio frequency. So what I did in this search is there's this deal, it's called RF power needs. Well, the magic happens when you do this search right here. Okay, you do MH370 and combine it with this phrase, RF power needs RF spin. Because this is the other company that I found. And when you do that, you get this right here. You get RF spin, and they show that they make this broadcast antenna, and that they're the experts of this stuff. So I started looking deeper into it, and their stuff is just wild, because here's one of their products right here. And look at the numbers on it. I'm telling you, they're just blasting this stuff. So it's called the DRH370. They're always using these numbers with the MH370 right in it. So you can almost pick all their stuff out, because like I said, they're just putting so many tags on this thing. So what this thing is, this is their top seller. It's an antenna for low frequency measurement, and it's got high gain. So this RF spin, it shows exactly what it is and what it does. But the key here is this, AU technology. AU is a symbol for gold, so it's gold technology. And this is all the stuff I believe that the letter was talking about, is the products that are actually out there in existence today. So here's more from RF spin, and they use this symbol here, with stuff swirling around it. Then they use this symbol here, anti-grav. Then they send, they got this package here like you're sending something. FedEx. And very much in your face, as you can see on their specs. They're even using this 370 numbers for their width. So there are no coincidences. There's only consciousness. And that's what everybody's operating through. And that's how all this stuff is coming together. You can either pick it up or you can tune it out. I choose to pick it up. So here it is, double ridge horn antenna. DRH370. Look at the frequency range on it. 370 megahertz to 6 gigs. I'll show you why this is important. So, like I said, this is what I did. I thought of that phrase, RF power needs RF spin, and I combined them. And then you get into this other company that's called Wurlatone.com. Or if you break these words down, it's WRLA tone. Because this is all about sound. Sound's the basis of everything. Because everything is sound design or designed by sound. So what these people are making is just a waveguide. That's all an antenna is a waveguide. So these guys make RF power needs. This Wurlatone, you're gonna see what they make. They make waveside power meters, coaxial power meters, digital power meters, RF hybrid combiners. So this is what you get in the search. RF power plus RF spin. Like I said, they're broadband antenna experts, and they have 20 years of RF spin under their belts. So then you get into this other company here, Wurlatone, or We Are LA Tone. And then you see real quick who they're making all this stuff for. Aerospace and defense. So here's one of their statements. Wurlatone solutions tolerate the most stringent operating conditions associated with military, space, and EMC environments. So they're showing exactly what their capabilities are. And this is where it gets really interesting because of what Tom Bearden says. I talked about it in my last video. He says to convert a regular radar to a scalar that pulses is 3 things. Okay, Tom Bearden says you need a plumbing section, you need a waveguide, and you need a switch to throw. So this is what these guys make. All these parts you see here, these are high grade stuff. This ain't no cheap Chinese junk. And they make stuff for commercial, as you can see, but look at the stuff that they make for the military. They make communications, electronic warfare, and radar. High frequency, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, L band, S band, C band, X band, KU band on the radar stuff. So they're not any little outfit. They're a big deal. And here they're showing you. High power multi-octave performance. So their stuff ain't no joke. And her real outfit. So that's their stuff. Here's their power meters. Here's all their information. And of course they got the thing circling the globe. So okay, it's pretty much what they're talking about in this letter. I mean, I can't really think of anything else that they're talking about but this stuff. So, when you get into all that stuff I just showed you, you have to get into the other end of it, and that's the deal with the computers and this clock that I'm talking about. So, this is called QAM theory. Okay, so basically, what this is talking about is they're saying that imagine this is everything that you see in the matter universe. Well, what QAM theory, quadrature amplitude modulation theory, says is that everything in the universe that you see is expanding and contracting to a point. So this whole thing, everything that you would see in the circle is expanding and contracting nonstop, but it's happening so fast that your brain and that the frames that your eyes are able to pick up can't see it. So it's happening, they say, a little over 1 trillion times per second. So this comes from Project Camelot as well. So this is from Richard Lighthouse. So he's talking about how our universe blinks on and off a little over 1 trillion times per second. When the matter universe blinks on, the antimatter universe blinks off. See, he says it's like a sine wave, and it uses this thing right here. It's called 1024 QAM, quadrature amplitude modulation. It's the same math that is used in Wi-Fi. Okay, QAM math is what is used to transfer a signal between a computer and a router. So the same math is being used to produce our universe at 1 trillion cycles per second. So QAM fits the math gap that the physicists couldn't figure out that models this particle gap. The 1024 says there's 4 particles. Of course, we don't deal with particles at Tesla field physics here, but this is just what they're saying for the science. 1024 says that there's 4 particles, and then there's a math gap, 4 particles, then a math gap. Okay, so it also says that there are 4 charges for every particle mass, and that there's 16 particle probabilities for every particle field. So they're talking about all this particle nonsense. But this is the simple theory. There's not an addition, there's not subtraction or division, there's no math, it's just a pattern. So here's what it is. It's 1.039 kilohertz. That's the 1024 QAM frequency. And it has harmonics in it. The first harmonic is 2.078 terahertz. Each harmonic allows us to do things that we weren't able to do before, like time travel faster than light, travel between parallel universes. Okay, so all this stuff, distant galaxies. As a sine wave travels through the universe expands and collapses 1 trillion times a second. As it approaches the neutral line, all forces become zero, no mass, no distance, okay, no time. So the weight of the entire universe collapses at 1 trillion times a second to a single point. The x-axis is the neutral point in the sine wave. Right before it hits zero, everything becomes massless. You could use a light beam to bring the field to light speed because it has no mass. He says you would need a really fast clock to time the window. An atomic clock is 9 to 10 billion cycles per second. You need a gamma ray clock that would use the frequency of a gamma ray. Phil Corso said the day after Roswell that they couldn't figure out the propulsion system, but it had something to do with blinking. Its frequency was so fast that they didn't have a signal analyzer to analyze it. So, this whole thing is talking about this first it's talking about this first harmonic at 2.078 terahertz. If you put that frequency to a car or a stone and provide enough electrical energy, I'm guessing that they're saying that you could do the faster than light thing with it. So that's the whole QAM thing, that everything is building up and then smashing down to a singularity and then coming back. So this whole thing fits exactly with what Pete Peterson was saying. And I found here with this technology that they actually have out there that I didn't know existed until a few days ago. So it's called a 2.6W 370 megahertz to 2.5 gigahertz open loop quadrature clock generator. I can't believe I even found this thing. So it's an open loop quadrature phase clock generator, generation. Open loop quadrature phase clock generation. So if you do a search on terahertz technology and its applications from Science Direct, it says in June 2013, the terahertz gap ranges from 0.3 terahertz to 10 terahertz in the electromagnetic spectrum between microwave and infrared, invisible to the eye. So when you get into the whole computer deal, it says in computer science, a high-level programming language is a programming language with strong abstraction from the details of the computer. In contrast to low-level programming languages, it may use natural language elements to be easier to use, or may automate, even hide entirely significant areas of computing. In computer, so it says, making the process of developing a program simpler and more understandable than when using a low-level language. The amount of abstraction provided defines how high-level programming language is. So it said in the 60s, a high-level programming language was a computer, was a compiler, commonly called autocode. So then they talk about how this works. So that's not with this one. So I'll show you what this looks like here with the QAM stuff. Okay, so this comes from, I believe it's the RF spin. So this is for the antenna. Not the computer. And then here's a paper on spin wave generation by surface acoustic waves, where they go into all this stuff. And they talk about how to generate the spin. Okay, so here it is. Let me try and get a better view of this because I didn't take a very good picture. Okay, so it says quadrature phase clock generation is required for many applications in wireless and in wireline communications. Traditional closed loop based quadrature generation methods using DLLs or PLLs require high power, large area, and long lock-in time. Open loop quadrature generators address many of these issues associated with closed loop designs. So this is the whole deal, and then they won't let you even read any further on this. So here it is. When you, like I said, when you do the search here, 370 megahertz. This is when you find the clock. So I didn't even know this thing existed until I seen this thing. And that's what you would need in order to do all these high-speed calculations with this stuff. So when you go back to all this stuff that Pete Peterson was saying, he talks about how he was working on the Mars rover, and before that he was working on stuff with robotics that could go into a nuclear power plant and basically start disassembling stuff if they had an accident. So Pete Peterson is talking to Kerry Cassidy, Bill Ryan, and David Wilcock. It's called Project Camelot Interviews Dr. Pete Peterson, Part 3 on YouTube. It's Super Big Bad Man, whose channel it is. It's kind of hard to find. I actually had to find this on the open internet. So this was, Pete Peterson died in 2019. So thanks, Pete. So he's talking about building robots to take apart a nuclear reactor in case it melts down. They found out the materials that were electrical conductors inside a heavy nuclear flux became insulators, and insulators became conductors. So that's where everything flips. So stiff metals became brittle metals, like ash stiff metals became very brittle. Materials like ash became very hard. Grease became like welds. He said they built the first microprocessor in a real product, and their company name was Cyberdyne, the same name that you hear in the Terminator series. Okay, so the chip that they produced in the 1970s, he says that there's more of them produced today than all the Intel chips in 1 year. It's actually designed like a computer. The Intel is not designed like a computer, the Intel chip. So he said that one of the people that actually worked there went to work on the Terminator movie. So this is interesting too, because he says that the AI chip uses fuzzy logic to make decisions for navigation, digital or analog. If it's analog, it needs high speed. So he said he made robots and manipulators. He said Pete's was a member of the Astronautic Associates of Mankind. He said it's the Russian equivalent of NASA. So he said a lot of stuff that is really making a lot of sense today, because so when he's talking about these robots, he goes into how they're using this fuzzy logic in order to navigate terrain, and how they can map everything out, which is what these systems go into that I've been showing with all this stuff. So Pete Peterson, he had a lot of gems that I believe people are still gonna find in the future. A whole lot more stuff that he said, very interesting. So I think that's all I'm gonna cover in this video. It's pretty wild. I can't believe that they actually got a clock that definitely does this stuff, but I knew that's exactly what you'd have to have. If you want to check out my video on QAM, quadrature amplitude modulation theory, it's pretty good with what this stuff that Richard Lighthouse is talking about. But big thanks to Carrie Cassidy, because she put out a lot of stuff, and I've seen almost all her videos, and I read a lot of the transcripts too. So thanks to all these people. Thanks to Ashton Forbes for all that he's doing. I hope all this information can be used to better humanity. So thanks for watching. If you haven't seen my other videos, check them out.